Hey everyone, and welcome to Nicole Reacts, the show in which I, Nicole, react to online marketing gurus that I find, that other people help me find, and occasionally who find me on the internet. My qualifications for marketing snark and commentary are that I've owned a marketing company for the last 17 years. In that time, having worked with hundreds of clients on marketing strategy and implementation. So I know a fair bit when it comes to online marketing, but also related topics like website development and search engine optimization. Sometimes when you're talking on the internet, you create things, you put it out there, and you don't think that deeply about it. And when I recorded the Sunny Lenarduzzi video, gosh, what was that? Almost 2 years ago at this point, I classify her like I classify a lot of these other gurus, and I honestly just thought that that video would do about the same amount of traffic as my usual videos. I was wrong. It is one of the most popular videos that I have ever uploaded. And I have gotten a lot of private messages saying, wow, you just saved me thousands of dollars. And I got a lot of public comments. I've left all of them up there, by the way, on that video telling me that I am either jealous of Sunny Lenarduzzi because I'm not as pretty as her or as successful as her, or that I don't know what I'm talking about and that I should do my research more deeply. So let's talk about those two things because I'm going to do another Sunny Lenarduzzi video to follow up because you know what? Maybe I was too hard on her. Sometimes I'm in a mood when I record, and so I'm a little sillier. But in general, in terms of like content, I really try to stick to the subject matter at hand and I really try to treat people pretty fairly. But I can recognize that if people have this feedback, then maybe I should revisit it. So that's what we're going to do today. But let me address the sort of two things that people brought up in that previous video. Number one, if I can only criticize people who are worse looking or less successful than me, that's going to be a pretty small pool. Now, I'm not saying this to get people to leave me comments about how pretty I am. I think we all know that attractiveness is a pretty subjective thing. But I think in American society, we can agree that attractive is typically thin and typically young. And as you see, I am neither of those things. That said, I think that I should be able to talk about someone who does marketing as someone who also does marketing. I have a subject matter expertise, and that's what we're talking about. We're not talking about how she looks. We're not talking about, you know, how successful she is, except for when she makes income claims. That's the only time I talk about money with these people. She can drive whatever kind of car she wants. She can wear whatever kind of clothes she wants. I am not dogging her on that. And as you see on this channel, I don't really talk about people like that. I really try to stick to marketing, which is why this channel has probably grown as slowly as it has. But anyway, I think that I'm allowed to criticize people. This person has more money and more success than I have. That does not mean that she can help you get to her level of success, which I think we can all agree with. And number two is everyone's like, well, you should have done your research. First of all, with Sunny Lenarduzzi in particular, what I found partway through recording that video was that she had a separate testimonials YouTube channel versus her main channel. And I think we can all agree that that's not a typical thing. If I started wanting to do suddenly like a bunch of book reviews about young adult novels, I would probably make a separate channel for that because that is a separate audience, that is a separate subject matter than what I cover here on this channel. So I don't think that most people have that kind of thing. So I didn't really know to look out for it. So yeah, I didn't know it ahead of time. But the other thing is that a lot of these gurus, the only stuff that's about them that's out there is stuff that they have created or have direct control over. So, yeah, I could go over it, but it's still kind of the same problem. If you wanted to, for example, look into me and who I am, there are a couple of news articles about me online that have been written by journalists that are not anything that I have any control over that you are welcome to look at. You can read the Google reviews for my business and the Yelp reviews. There's plenty of sort of exterior sources that I don't really have control over that are talking about my business that you could, find out some information from. With these people, their stuff is so tightly monitored that even if I would do an expose, it would just, they'd be controlling the narrative anyway. And I will just say this as an aside, I am not an investigative journalist. I've never pretended to be that. I used to be a online content editor at a newspaper, but this is very much a hobby for me. And it is a hobby that is lightly monetized. How lightly, you say? I make between $5 and $15 a month on this channel. I would say that I upload maybe 2 long form videos a month is kind of what I've been generally trying to go for this last little bit. And each video takes me 2 to 3 hours to record plus 2 to 3 hours to edit. So for 2 videos, that's 12 hours. So I have spent 12 hours to make between $5 and $15. If I was doing this to make money, this would be the dumbest plan in the world. Okay. It would be dumb because I could just go get pretty much any minimum wage job and make way more than that. But my passion is the content. My passion is creating a community around where we can talk about marketing and business and real strategies that work. And you'll notice that at the end of these videos, I try to give you the sort of terms and ideas so that if you want to evaluate like this guru's course among other courses, that you can do that. Oh, this is a course about SEO copywriting. Okay, what goes into SEO copywriting? And I could give you kind of some ideas about it and I can maybe send you in some directions. This way you can do more deep research and decide, okay, is this the only person that can teach me this? And they charge $8,000 for their course? Or could I maybe find a comparable course on like Coursera or an online course platform? Could I work with a local or regional marketing agency to come up with a specific strategy for my business? Could I watch some more YouTube videos about this content to give myself some more context? These are all options that you have. And what I want people to feel like when they watch these videos is that they have options. You always have options. It's not this guru or nothing. It's not just technical support or nothing. There are hundreds of thousands of people who know as much, if not more, about marketing than I do in this world. All I am is a random person on the internet who knows a lot about marketing, who has a lot of not only knowledge, but experience in marketing with a lot of small businesses, which is the audience for this content, because a lot of small businesses are looking to up their marketing game and they're getting pitched constantly these very expensive courses from these gurus who act like they are here and that you are here. And the other thing that's confusing about all this guru stuff is that there is grains of truth throughout these people's content. It's not like any one person is 100% wrong or 100% right. I wish the world was that easy to figure out, which is why it's confusing, because you'll be watching some of their free content and you'll say, oh, like I know that this is true because I've read it in some other books and I've heard other people say it. So this person must be right about everything. But I'm here to bring the nuance in that if you're going to pay a guru thousands of dollars to take a course with hundreds or thousands of other people without getting that individual attention and expertise, that you can probably get that knowledge elsewhere. Those people probably don't need any more of your money. So I look forward to all the negative comments I will get on this video from Sunny Stans. I honestly don't get it. I am literally nobody. I'm nobody, right? According to you all, I don't know anything and I'm just jealous. So why are you here listening to me? Anyway, so today I wanted to review a video, which is, I think, well titled, and why this person kind of gives me a little bit of the ick. The name of this video is The 6-Month Plan to Build a $1 Million Business Without Burning Out. So I want you to ask yourself 2 questions. Number 1, does it seem realistic that you could build a $1 million business in 6 months? Does that seem realistic to you? And do you think that somebody who makes it sound realistic is an ethical person? So I don't like the idea of the income claim, and I don't like the idea that, there's a lot of ease in building a business, because anybody who has ever built one knows that it isn't easy. And I know we want to all think that it is easy and that there's just this one trick that we haven't learned yet. And like I said at the beginning part of this video, I'm either the dumbest person on earth or it's not as straightforward as everyone of these gurus make it sound like. This video is approximately 30 minutes long, so I'm guessing this will be about an hour and a half all said and done. So get a drink, get a snack, get comfortable, or start doing a chore, and we're gonna listen to this video. I do think she has a whiteboard partway through, so I will verbally signal when that gets taken out in case you want to watch the whiteboard too. Before we start, she does have great hair. I do wish I had like awesome curly hair like that.
A 6-month plan to build a $1 million business. I am going to read your mind, and I think you're thinking, cool, another nonsense get rich quick video. And that's a very understandable thought process, especially given.
Why would you name this video this unless you wanted people to think that? Do you know what I mean?
How much information is out there on YouTube. But what I'm sharing in this video is actually backed by a decade of making millionaires. So there's Jeffrey, who started his business 4 years ago with no audience and no revenue and has gone on to generate $10 million since then. Or there's Katie, a veterinarian who went from completely burnt out to helping pet parents around the globe with her business that has now done over $1 million in sales. So no.
Two things here. Number one, whenever I teach someone how to do marketing, maybe it's a one-on-one and we go through some stuff, or maybe we do kind of a series together where I'm like, okay, like this is how I would execute sort of the plan that I have for you if you were going to do it yourself. Let's teach you how to do it. I can take credit for like maybe 5 or 10% of their success, maybe. They're the ones that took the knowledge and applied it. They're the ones who consistently did the work. They're the ones who figured out the niche or the products and services for the market that was ultimately successful. They're the ones who are actually doing the work that are making their customers happy, which makes them come back. As the person who like taught them some techniques, I can take very limited credit for their success. And I think Sunny can say the same thing here if she's being really honest with herself. Number two, so the vet person, she doesn't talk about how long the person took to make $1 million in sales. I'm going to tell you that I've been in business for 17 years and I have made over $1 million in sales. Absolutely. I can say that without any hesitation because let's do the math. That means I would have made $58,823 in sales per year. There's some years I've made less than that, and there's some years that I've made more than that. She's saying the word sales. But we know that with a business, in addition to sales, there is also expenses. And if you, for example, you have a job, right, and you make a paycheck, if you could just keep your paycheck and if you didn't have to pay rent and groceries and electricity and all of that, you'd be like, oh, wow, yeah, I've made over $1 million at my job. But the problem is that you have stuff that you need to pay. So she doesn't specify how long it took to generate the $1 million, and she doesn't specify how many expenses went into that. So whenever someone talks about making a lot of money, that is only part of the picture. And if you only were able to talk about how much money was coming into your home based on your job or your business or whatever, you could also kind of frame your stuff to look pretty successful. All right, let's get back to it.
So no, this isn't some random one-off theory. It's actually backed by a strategy that actually works if you do the work. And most importantly, how to do it without burning yourself out.
If you do the work and if the conditions are aligned in your favor. Because I think we've all been in positions where we've worked really hard at something and have it not been successful. The part she's not bringing in here is the part that you can't control, which is the sort of market readiness for your idea. So if you were going to make luxury handbags and we're heading into a recession, you could work really hard at that business. You could market the crap out of it. And I'm not sure how successful you're going to be because even if you have a good idea and even if it's well executed, there's whole parts of the business that you don't have any control over. And these gurus will never acknowledge that because it would be difficult for them to sell you a course if they had to. Hey guys, editing Nicole. And if you think I'm being a negative Nancy here, really harping on all these factors that you can't control when running your business, if you want just a case study that's happening right now, just take a look at what happened to stock prices and what happened to small businesses when tariffs were announced here in the US within the last little bit. Who knows if by the time you're listening to this, we have tariffs or not, because who knows what's even going on. But you see how even an economic policy in a government could completely change how a small business has to run itself, or even a very large business. So in short, there's lots of factors when you run a business that you can't control, and acting like it's just about hard work is, I think, a little bit disingenuous. All right, let's get back to it.
And to take this a step further, I want you to comment, give me the guide below, and we'll send you our free guide on the 10 steps to scale your skill set and 10x your impact without trading time for money. And
if it was easy to make 10 times the amount of money you're making now without spending more time, if it was easy to do that, don't you think we would all be doing it? Listen, she's very charismatic. She seems like a smart person. She seems like a nice person, but this is gross. Sunny, I'm sorry if you're watching this, but.
And that includes a very powerful free tool that will unlock your most profitable niche in a matter of minutes. Just comment, give me the guide below, and we'll send the link over.
Okay, so it's a free guide with a couple of questions that's going to help me figure out my niche in minutes. I don't know. That doesn't seem like the deep amount of research I should be doing to start a business. And it's certainly not the deep amount of research that Sunny people want me to do before I make these videos.
Link over. Burnout, that place where you work so hard and the stress is so overwhelming that you literally shut down.
Okay. So now what's happening here is an emotional appeal. And I'm saying this ahead before I keep playing it so that you can notice it. So you're thinking, oh, wow, I might be just in the wrong niche. That's why I'm not doing well. Oh, this person might be able to really help me out. But like the idea of doing one more thing, I'm really tired already trying to run this business. What she is going to do is put you in emotional space. She's going to put you in you are burnt out running your business. She's going to bring you to that feeling. If you're not in the middle of that feeling right now, she's going to bring you back to when you felt that. And I bet she's going to tell a personal story about when she was burned out. And now, as you see, she's like thriving. She has a nice background. So that's probably her house. Like she looks good. So yeah, she's going to bring you into an emotional place so that she can sell to you a little bit later in the video. So just pay attention to that.
Down physically, mentally, and emotionally is a very real thing. And there's a fascinating 2023 Harvard study that revealed that 72% of the most successful entrepreneurs, measured by revenue and growth, reported the highest rates of burnout. So let that sink in for a second.
If you've been on this channel regularly in the last 5 years, you probably noticed the 3 periods of burnout that I've had taking a break from YouTube. Yeah, burnout is totally a real thing.
For a second, the most successful entrepreneurs are the most likely to feel burnt out, to feel pressure, never to stop, to never admit that they're.
And so in saying this, it's like, oh, if you feel burned out, well, so do the most successful people. You're in the right company. She's like kind of aligning you with successful people like her.
Struggling in this endless success trap. And believe me, I know this all too well. I've been there, and it landed me in the hospital. So on August 31st, 2017, after running my business nonstop and working crazy hours every single day, I finally decided I was just going to give myself a little break, a day off. And that evening, everything started to spiral. I got so dizzy and disoriented that I was rushed to the hospital. And what did they tell me? That I was showing every symptom of a stroke. A stroke at 29 years old, deeming myself healthy by all measures. And there I was, surrounded by concerned nurses and doctors, asking myself, how did I get here? How is this possible? What have I done to myself? So I had been running myself ragged, churning out endless social media posts, juggling a very overwhelming calendar, and bending over backward for super demanding clients who all wanted custom treatment. So the hamster wheel had finally.
If clients are paying you to create social media posts for them, why is it weird that they would want custom content? Like the clients that I have now, they all get production days, and I am editing their video and photo content, and I'm scheduling it to post to social media, and I'm responding to comments and messages. Like most marketing work that I know is probably going to be custom. And if it isn't, I feel like that's something you should disclose to the client, because I feel like the expectation with marketing work is that it is custom for the business you're doing it for. So I think that that's a weird thing to say, that they expected custom work. It's like, okay, well, where did they get that expectation from? A, most marketing work is custom, and B, like, did you set that expectation? Because part of it as business owners that we need to do is we need to set the expectation, which is what I do in my agreements with people. It's like, This is how many posts you're getting. This is what services are included. This is the order of priority of services. This is how, if you want something changed or reprioritized, this is like, you send an email or something in writing. I like really try to spell it out because I don't want people to be disappointed in what they got, because I was really clear with this is what you're paying and this is what you're getting. But yeah, it is easy to burn out when you do a lot of content. Ask me how I know.
Finally caught up with me. And looking back, I realized I wasn't really building a business. I was building a trap, and I didn't deserve it.
Yeah, you don't deserve to feel trapped in any situation. But also, like, sometimes when you build a business, you're building yourself like a job. You're building yourself a set group of tasks that you can get a set amount of money for, that is somewhat controlled by you, maybe a little bit more than a traditional 9 to 5 job. So if you feel trapped, please restructure your life. If you feel trapped in your relationship, like, take a step back and look at it. If you feel trapped in your business, take a step back and look at it, obviously.
Deserve it. And you don't either.
Yeah, you don't deserve to be
Lying in
trapped.
that hospital bed, I made myself a promise. I was going to change everything about how I did business. And that's exactly what I did. And while I wouldn't wish that August 31st on anyone, I love sharing the lessons it taught me. So ideally, you can avoid it. And here's what I discovered: taking on more and more doesn't grow a business faster, it just burns you out faster.
I can agree with that, because you have to grow in like a sustainable way. At a certain point, taking on more business will bring you in more money. But I think what she's implying is at a certain point, especially if you do a service-based business, you only have a certain amount of time. Like, you can only scale that so much, right? So what I talk with my clients about a lot is, okay, there's what is currently making your money, and then what is the ideal way you'd be making your money? What are some products or services you sell that have a high profit margin that would be easy to train a potential staff member on how to do, and stuff like that? So obviously you can keep taking on like the kind of work that you're already making money with. But what you ultimately want to do is kind of look around. Okay, for example, one of my former clients is a maple producer, and maple syrup, I know it's really expensive in the grocery store, but like the people who produce it don't necessarily make a lot of money on it. Where they make their money is the value added products, the maple cotton candy, the maple candies, the maple lollipops. So rather than them selling more maple syrup, it could be a matter of, okay, well, how can we market these value added products better? How can we reach out to potential wholesalers for our value added products? How can we get feedback on our value added products that maybe aren't selling so well, so that we can make them better? So, like, what you want to do is look at your business and say, okay, there's these things that I'm capable of doing, make money, but like, what are the things that allow me to make money more easily, or I guess less painlessly? Yeah, less painfully, not less. We want less pain, less painfully. That's what we're going for. So yeah, this is kind of business planning-y kind of stuff. And it could be that you kind of need to go maybe your first year or two of business before you know what those things are. So this might not be something you know right away, and that's okay.
The real secret to success, it's building a strategic system that grows like compound interest, organically and exponentially over time. A process that delivers value whether you're there or not. And today, I'm going to show
Something to know about me is that I grew up in a small business household. My family ran the local hardware store, and my dad, he didn't really say much about business because he wanted me to get a real job. But one thing he would say a lot is that a business runs differently when the owner's there. And I've always kind of taken that to heart, because I think when I did have staff, for example, that it really set the tone that I was also working and they were working, and they saw me working, and they saw that I was approachable and willing to show them how to do things and all that stuff. In addition to that, it also communicated to the customers that they were being taken care of by the person that they talked to, which is me, even if someone else was ultimately drafting the blog post or working on the website that was on my team that wasn't me, that I had a hand in it. And now that it's just me, that's a little bit more obvious, but I still think that you can come up with systems that allow you to kind of have a little bit more time flexibility or a little bit more flexibility with your business, but that doesn't mean you can be entirely hands off. And I'll use this co-working space as an example. So I'm recording in Anchor Space Potsdam today because I just thought, let's try recording it from here. I have recently had things shift in my life where I am not here most days. So I have had to figure out, okay, how can I run the co-working space without me being here as often as I was before? So some of this is technology, like having a remote door lock. So I have an app on my phone and there's two doors. There's a door kind of facing the outside, and then there's a door that goes to the inside of the mall, which is kind of behind me to the side. And if somebody was here, let's say a member had like accidentally locked themselves out or they forgot their code or something, I would be able to remotely unlock the door from wherever I am. Some of the stuff, though, is just being thoughtful. So, for example, I'm not necessarily here to notice that we're going to run out of printer paper or that we're going to run out of coffee or that we're going to run out of toilet paper. So, some of it is just me being like, okay, let's just keep more of this stuff on hand so that if it does run out, and obviously everybody knows where the extra supplies are, that they can just have that. So, it's not to say I can never come to the co-working space. Like I still have to come here and make sure that like stuff is generally picked up or that like, oh, this is weird. It seems like the TV got unhooked from the camera. Like, let me fix that. It's not to say I could never be here. It's just to say that I've created these systems so that I can have a little bit more flexibility. So, the whole idea of the business running without you, in particular, if you're providing services for people, I think is kind of icky unless you are very upfront about that with people. So, for example, let's say I ran, I don't know, a pressure washing company. And let's say I had a team of 4 people who helped me, but as the owner, I'm the one who goes and does the estimate. So, if I come to the business and I meet with you and we have rapport and you see examples of my work, I need to be able to tell you, hey, I'm going to send Tom over who works for me to do this. Tom has been trained and Tom knows to do X, Y, and Z. And if you're unsatisfied with Tom's work, this is how you would let me know, and this is how we would fix it. So I would be just really clear with, hey, we're meeting and it's Nicole's pressure washing company, but I need to be super clear with you that I'm not going to be the one doing the work. It's going to be Tom. And this is some information to allow you to feel good about Tom doing the work. And then this is some information for you to know if for some reason you did not like the work that Tom did, how I would get that feedback. So, anyway, I think that you setting up a business and then thinking you can kick your heels back and never spend any time in it, I think is not only a fantasy, but I think it's a recipe for a real disaster potentially. But let's hear about this dream business that is going to make you exponential money that you don't have to run.
Show you exactly how to build that system around something you already have, your knowledge. And if you want to take action on what you learned today, be sure to comment, give me the guide below, and we will send you the link to our free ebook with the 10 steps to scale your skill set and 10x your impact without.
It's interesting because we're watching this on YouTube. So if I left the comment, would she message me to get my email to send me the guide? Why wouldn't she just post the link to the guide in this YouTube description? And if she wanted to collect my email address, she could just like obviously, make it pop up that I had to give my email address before I could download it. Why do this whole like message thing? I think it's to create engagement. I've seen it on Instagram and stuff too, this method, but it seems a little nonsensical on YouTube, but
trading time for money. And like I said, this isn't just theory. This method helped me build an 8-figure business. And it's not just me. We've seen it work for over 600 different niches with countless experts. And in order to create this,
it's worked in 600 niches with countless experts. I don't know about you, but that would be really difficult for me to name 600 different niches. Like the real estate niche. Okay, you have like real estate brokers, you have appraisers, you have real estate insurance people. I'm just saying that like this kind of seems like a sort of throwaway number, even if it is a number.
this kind of sustainable success, you need to understand what I call the business flywheel. It has 4 crucial components.
Okay.
Let's dig in. And the first key
All right, for those of you listening only, that we are now at a whiteboard and it has 4 boxes on it. If you want to join in, I have a feeling this whiteboard will be slowly filled in, but I will let you know when we transition away.
component here is your audience. And what I mean by that is attracting those perfect clients that you can serve best. And a big, big hint here is that's not everyone. So you are not here to serve everyone. And if you do, you can only serve at a surface level.
The other thing that she's going to, I think, continue implying here is this group of people needs to be able to pay you. So, like, let's say that you were really passionate about math tutoring. There are high school students that might need your help, but they don't have any money. What you want is those, maybe private homeschool parents who don't have the math skills to maybe teach their kids that kind of content, but they have the money to be able to pay someone to do that. So, yes, you have an audience that is really interested in what you have to sell, but the implication is that they also have to have a certain level of income or willingness to invest if you're selling a high ticket item.
And ultimately, that doesn't build long lasting success because you need results. And in order to get results, you have to work with the right people. And the next piece of this is what we call your unique transformation. And what that ultimately means is it's the results that you can get for your clients when they use your system to go from what we call 0 to hero. And from there comes your offer. And your offer ultimately is how you package your unique expertise into a step-by-step curriculum that actually gets your clients results. And finally, from there, the biggest piece of this flywheel, which I think is hands down the most important, because this is really going to build that long-lasting success, ultimately is referrals. Because referrals.
And it makes sense that she has a whole separate channel of affiliate things and also an army of people online who want to jump in my comment section, is that they're potentially making money off of referring people to Sunny's course.
Referrals are a way for your program to be marketed without you having to put in more effort. And where do referrals come from? Well, it comes from happy clients. How do you get happy clients? You know you're serving the right people with the right transformation, with the right offer that they actually need.
And part of referrals is that you have to financially incentivize people to give them to you. So, for example, one of my clients right now, she's like, Nicole, we get so many comments on our social media and they keep asking us who's doing it. And I don't want to tell them that you're doing it. And I'm like, that's fine. To me, good marketing, I should be completely invisible. It's your business who should be getting the credit. Unless you are completely underpaying me and part of your payment is like I get to mention myself in all your captions as having done your social media. I think good marketing means that the marketing team is invisible. And whenever I see that clients will get comments like, "Oh my God, so and so, you're so funny," or "This is so you guys to like post something like this." To me, it's the highest compliment in the world that they think the client is doing it or like behind it, because that means that I'm doing it right. So sometimes I don't get referrals, not because I my work isn't good, but it's because people want to keep me their little secret, I guess. But anyway, I think to actually get the referrals, you have to financially incentivize people for them to do them. Otherwise, you can, keep asking for them, but people just don't think to do it unless there's something in it for them a little bit, to be honest.
They get results from your offer. And then ultimately, they're so excited. We see this time and time again. They're so excited to go and tell other people that you are the authority on this topic, that people need to work with you. And naturally, it just starts to bring in more of your ideal client, create more transformations through your offer, which leads to even more referrals. And this is where this flywheel just starts to work for you without you having to do the work. But the key piece here is this: if you don't have a great program and transformation, this is never going to happen. And that is going to.
I would love to hear some examples of transformations. I think that would help people to understand a little bit more what she's talking about. Anybody want to bet if we're going to get some specific examples here?
Kill your business. So when these 4 pieces flow together and support each other, you've got this self-reinforcing growth machine that works purposefully and peacefully. So now that you understand the flywheel.
I think the offer working peacefully is kind of an interesting way to put it, but okay.
As a whole and this concept, I'm going to show you how to implement
Great.
each of these steps in a step-by-step fashion over a 6-month time period. So this will be at a sustainable pace that gives you time for all the things that matter to you: family, health, all the things that serve
Keeping your full-time job because this isn't making you any money yet.
your well-being. So will you have your first million in the bank in 6 months? Unlikely. But will you build a foundation that will allow you?
The title of this video is How to Build $1 Million Business Without Burning Out. Will you have $1 million in the bank after 6 months? Probably not, but you're on your way. Okay, then why didn't you call the video that? She knows that this video title is going to get people to click. But then, 7 minutes into the video, she says, actually, probably not in 6 months.
Allow you to scale to your.
And what she's doing here, and I notice this with other people, is she has set an expectation and now she's kind of adding little asterisks. She's kind of managing it here, right? The title of this video is a 6-month plan to build $1 million business without burning out. Are you going to have $1 million in the bank after 6 months? Probably not, but you're going to be on your way. Okay, so already we've taken away the promise of there being $1 million at the end of 6 months. Okay, so just
to your first million on your terms in a way that doesn't work you into the ground. That's a hard yes. Okay, so let's dig into phase one.
$1 million in your terms that doesn't work you into the ground. There's no time frame for this though. So to be super clear, I think that if you stick with your business long enough, you will eventually make $1 million in sales. It just might take you like 20 or 30 years to do it, depending on, kind of how much time and all that you invest into it.
So month one is all about building a strong foundation.
Okay.
So laying the groundwork for everything else. And
those of you listening, now we're on a different whiteboard and it says phase 1, month 1, the foundation. It looks like there's going to be 3 steps.
This is where we use what I call the POP method, which is a profitable offer prototype.
In my last video, one of my critiques was that she kept talking about this POP method without even saying what it stood for or defining it. And as a reminder, any video that you post somewhere, it could be the first video that someone sees from you. Like this could be the first video that you have ever seen from me as a person. So that's why at the beginning of the video, I give you the framework of who I am and what my experience is. I don't assume you've seen that before. So whenever that we introduce a term or an acronym, part of our work as video people is we have to define it. And so I'm glad she's doing that here. And I think it's interesting that she made a video where she didn't. I made a video saying that she should explain it. And now in this video, she is putting it on the screen and she is going to not only say what the acronym stands for, but actually explain it. I think that that's interesting. Again, I'm nobody. I have like 1,200 subscribers. This person has 500,000 or more. She makes 8 figures. What does she care about me? Maybe she cares enough to listen to some of my feedback. Just saying.
So the POP is a preliminary model of your course that isn't fancy or perfect. And here's what it does. It helps you find your ideal audience, your ideal clients, understand exactly what transformation they're needing and looking for, and map out the clear steps to deliver that transformation as quickly as possible to get real feedback from the market.
I wish she would give an example of a POP course. So like, for example, my prototype for this course I did about copywriting was 4 videos. They were each about 20 minutes long and they covered these topics. And what I ended up doing with the feedback is build it out to 30 different videos. And I was able to kind of add this, this, and this based on the feedback I got. I think a concrete example here would show people what does a POP look like versus a finalized course or offer. But I'm sure that we probably have to pay for that example.
So the beauty of the POP process is that it will shave off months, maybe even years of research and mistakes. And by simultaneously building your audience and your course content, you're essentially co-creating a winning curriculum.
Yeah, and she's not the first person to think of this. There's a lot of people who will say you build a minimum viable product or you build a prototype and you get feedback on it. Because what you don't want to do is like spend all this time building the thing that you think everybody wants without getting that feedback first, because you might build something thinking that A, B, and C are important, when you try to bring it out into market, nobody buys it. And then you find out that, oh, they thought X, Y, and Z actually were more important as sort of features or ideas. So like I said, I think most people who create courses or membership groups or anything where there's a knowledge component will basically say this thing. The first version of your course or your learning thing is not going to be perfect. And part of what's going to make it better is feedback from some initial beta testers or your students, whoever they may be.
For your ideal clients that's going to get tons of results. So the pop removes all the guesswork. You'll know exactly what works and have the confidence to move forward with an offer that you know your ideal clients actually really, really, really want and will pay for. So this method has 3 core components that actually make it work. So step 1 is define your audience. So let's start with that and let's kind of dig into how do we do this in a way that is really, really efficient? So you've got a unique expertise, right? So it's that unique knowledge that's authentically yours and it's built from experience. And it's that thing that your friends or your family or the people around you tend to come to you for help with. And that's a huge clue as to what.
So I have a little bit of issue with this because there's a level of advice that someone is going to ask me and not pay me anything for because I'm their friend or family member. And then there's like when they're really ready to dig in, they're going to seek out an expert and maybe pay them some money. And there's different levels of expectation with both of those groups of people. For example, I've been going through a lot of health stuff the last 3 years. And it's been a journey of, trying things naturally and working with medical professionals, getting some diagnoses, starting some medications and supplements. And now I'm starting to finally feel better. But if a friend is going through kind of some of the similar symptoms that I've had, they might ask me, hey, did you try X? What kind of doctor did you go to? Stuff like that. This is all kind of free advice I feel very comfortable giving because I'm just talking about my personal experience and pointing them in directions. But if they're ready to really dig in and figure out like, hey, I feel like crap too, what's wrong with me? They're going to go to their primary care. Or they're going to make an appointment maybe with an endocrinologist following up with the primary care visit. Maybe they're going to work with a naturopathic doctor. Maybe they're going to get a blood panel to understand what's going on with their hormones. So there's a series of steps to take that they need to work with a medical professional on. So going off what she said, I give people advice about marketing. And again, that is in my wheelhouse. That is my business. I do that for a living. I have people ask me about relationship advice and I can give them my read on it, but I'm going to just keep, my advice at arm's length from the situation and say, hey, this seems like something you should talk to your therapist about. This should be something that I think you should talk to a counselor with your partner about. This book might be nice for you about attachment styles. But anyway, I think just because people ask you for free advice about stuff does not mean you should be selling them a multi-$1,000 course about it. Just going to say that.
What you can build around. So you're good at what you do, but are you crystal clear about exactly who you can serve best? And probably not is the answer. So the biggest mistake we can make is thinking our audience is everyone. And the truth is when you market to everyone, you market to no one.
And again, she's not nearly the first or even the 1,000th person to say this. This is a common marketing thing is that, you need to figure out your audience and your audience isn't everybody. But how do you figure out your audience? And how do you know when your audience is wrong versus that you're just not reaching them?
So you need to remember this. Broad equals broke. Precise equals
broad equals broke and precise equals profits. I've never heard broad equals broke before. I will say that.
Profit. So getting laser focused makes everything easier. You'll know exactly where to find your audience, understand their pain points, and deliver.
I wish she would give an example of this is a broad audience and then this is a laser focused audience. So the vet at the beginning she was talking about, it said that she works with stressed out pet parents. That seems broad to me. I'm wondering, does she have a specific type of animal that she works best with? Maybe she works mostly with cats, or maybe she works with, animals that are in the process of being trained so that they can integrate well into family. So maybe it's more of a sort of developmental stage of the animal in terms of her processes of training them. I feel like that those two things would be sort of more laser focused than stressed out bad parents. I feel like there's millions of those, but yeah, I just wish she'd give a couple of examples here.
The transformation that they're looking for. And that precision makes it so much easier to stand out. You want to think about it this way. You can either be a big fish in a small pond or a tiny minnow lost in the ocean. And the choice is ultimately yours. We want to be a big fish in a small pond, ideally. So the second step here,
we do not want to be lost in the ocean. I'm glad you clarified.
Is write your transformation statement. Now, what do I mean by that?
I bet you she does not give an example of this, but she talks for 5 minutes about it.
Let me explain. So the second piece is critical. It's your transformation statement, as I said, and here's why it's so important. Your ideal audience isn't looking for more information. They want what I call a 0 to hero transformation, clear guidance to move from where they are now to ultimately where they want to go. So let me share some real life transformation statement examples from our clients.
Okay, I'm glad she's sharing specific examples. Sunny, I didn't mean to doubt you, but I did doubt you.
Helping overwhelmed practitioners transform scattered one-to-one clients into profitable group programs working just 20 hours a week. Or a business coach guiding burnt out executives to build sustainable 6-figure consulting businesses without sacrificing family time. Or a yoga instructor helping teachers turn their local studio practices into global online communities while tripling their income.
These all have income claims, and I don't like that.
So right now, let's take a little reality check. Does any of this feel intimidating? I'm sure it kind of does. And I promise I get it.
It's not that it feels intimidating. It feels like I'm lying to them because I can't guarantee how much money they're going to make.
A lot of people get stuck when it comes to identifying their ideal audience and the transformation they look for. So we've created a free and very powerful tool that will do this for you in a matter of minutes. It's kind of like magic. And you can find it in our free guide that I mentioned. So comment, give me the guide.
Okay, this is the third time she's mentioned give me the guide in 11 minutes. I wonder how many more times she'll mention it. Maybe I'll start a tally here.
Give it a try and you'll get to the root of all of this. And like I said, just a matter of minutes. So the third step is create your curriculum outline. So what I mean by this and why I'm saying not to create your entire curriculum start to finish is really important to understand, because that is a huge mistake that a lot of people make. So this is where you start to map out the exact steps your clients need to achieve that ultimate transformation. So this is the good news. You don't need endless videos or anything fancy. You just need a simple 2 to 3 page outline of their journey. So let me show you exactly what mine looked like when I started.
Great.
So module 1 was on clarity and foundation. And that took about a 2-week span of identifying your unique expertise in week 1 and your ideal client. In week 2 was creating your transformation statement and offer, which is ultimately going to be your curriculum outline. And then
It's funny how it took a whole week to make a transformation statement, and now she has a tool that'll do it in minutes. That's interesting.
3 was content and connection. And that was all about, lead generation through what we call on-demand strategies, and then understanding how to build genuine connections and starting conversations to get those paying clients in the door. And from there, it was enrollment and delivery. So that was authentic sales conversations and delivering amazing results for the first set of clients. So those clients can then go and become your first set of social proof to say, hey, I have a great offer that actually works. That makes it much easier to sell in the long run. So that,
I will say, if you're watching this and you're like in marketing or you're thinking about starting a marketing thing, if a business isn't doing any marketing and then they start working with you, they're going to see results. What you want to do is see if you can get them to be candid about the results they're seeing with you, because I've had a little bit of trouble with that. And number 2, you're going to want to track what you can yourself. So what do I mean by these 2 things? So for example, one of my clients is a hardware store and they have like a handyman service, and their website was a little clunky. I didn't build it, full disclosure. So I asked them, okay, so if somebody was going to get in touch, how would they do that? Oh, we want them to call this phone number. Okay. Now, the problem is I don't have access to their phone system. So I can put out all this marketing content, but I don't necessarily know that it's working. So what I have to do when I meet with them is I have to say, hey, how is the handyman service thing going? We've been doing a lot of marketing content. And what I was able to get the last time I met with these people is that the office manager was like, oh, yeah, we've gotten like twice the number of calls for the handyman service as we normally get. Okay. Now it'd be really great to close the loop and say, what is the average amount generated for the handyman service? And then how many did you book? And be able to show like, oh, we were able to book this client, 20 handyman services with an average value of $300. And so they made this amount of money because of work we did. But oftentimes clients, like I said, they're a little hesitant to kind of share those numbers. So what I have to do is be happy with knowing, okay, we doubled the calls. So there's a lot more awareness of the handyman service. But the other thing, which is the part that you can actually control, is besides asking them questions during your meetings, like I did, like asking them directly and just taking whatever information you can in terms of like what they're going to tell you, is you can track things on your own end. So what I do when I get a new client is I have a fresh document. I go in, how many Facebook fans do they have? How much reach do they have? How much interaction are they getting? How many posts a month are they doing? Okay. And then I go through all the other social media. Okay. What's their website like? How much traffic are they getting? What's the source of that traffic by percentage search versus social versus direct versus, anything else? What communities are these people in? Especially if it's a local business. I need to be able to show that, yeah, we're reaching people, but these people could actually be your customers because they're actually going to come into your physical business. I will use my keyword tool and I will look up sort of branded keywords and I'll see, okay, what's the average volume of people searching for this business or searching for, this brand name online, and I'll write those down. How many email subscribers do they have? What's the open rate of their emails? How many emails do they send a month? So I write all that down because at the end of the 6-month or 1-year contract, I'm obviously doing monthly reporting for most of these people, but I'm going to go through and I'm going to update that. How has it changed since we've been working? How has the audience grown? How has the reach and interaction changed? How has the website traffic changed? How many Google reviews did they start off with versus end the year with? So anything that you can see publicly in terms of like once you have access to like their dashboards and things, put it all down, because a lot of times these dashboards don't keep data for longer than like 90 days. So what you need to be able to do, besides your actual work, is you need to be able to show that the work you're doing is doing something. So that's what I recommend people do. And if you are your own business owner and you're like, well, I would do the same thing, right? If you're like, okay, I'm going to spend some energy on marketing my business, start off the same thing, like act like you're your own marketing client and write down those initial figures. And then as you do this marketing, maybe 3 months in, go through these numbers again. Okay, like, is it working? Oh, you're not getting more Google reviews? Okay, have you made any content on social media about your Google reviews? Have you asked people to leave Google reviews? Have you featured them in your email newsletter? Have you, responded to the Google reviews that you do have? Okay, if you're not doing any of those things, like, and you want more Google reviews, you'll start doing those things. And what you'll see is over time, you're going to see that your marketing is working. And what you want to do is say, okay, it's working, but like, how well is it working? And is it worth my time to continue doing this? And what you'll probably find is that some marketing channels are working really well for you and some are working less well. And that's okay. That's totally normal. So that's what I would recommend doing. Back to it.
So that's it. Those are the 3 components, and they're all needed to create this profitable offer prototype. So your audience, your transformation, and your curriculum outline. And before we move on, let's just break down exactly how powerful this POP method truly can be. So I'm going to share a few examples with you. When Nikki left her career as an attorney to become an animal communicator, yes, actually an animal communicator, she generated an incredible $86,000 in just 2 months using the POP method. And Mike, who teaches independent restaurant owners how to run their businesses successfully, made $89,000 in just 3 weeks with his POP strategy.
I want you to ask yourself, how many thousands of students has Sunny Lenarduzzi had? And she's able to bring up these 2 examples of some very impressive numbers the first few weeks. Are these people typical or are they outliers? They're outliers. That's why we're hearing about them. I had a boyfriend once, and he would constantly tell me about how his grandparents met and got married 10 days later, and then they were married for over 50 years. And I kept telling him the only reason you're telling me that story is because of how unusual that is. Like, a lot of people who did that probably got divorced. And I bet their grandchildren aren't like saying, oh, yeah, my grandparents got married after 10 days and it was a disaster and they got divorced 5 years later. That's not a fun story to tell. So we have to remember when we see these numbers, yes, they're impressive, but are they typical?
Strategy. So that kind of shows you that when you do this right, when you do it kind of messy and imperfect and just get it to market, it is so effective to prove.
Yes, when you do it right and get it to market. Yes, because if you never get it to market, it's never going to make any money. But there's also some circumstances beyond your control. Like if I launched a restaurant course about how to use online methods to make your restaurant more money, if I launched it during COVID, it might have done pretty well. So part of it is the offer, and part of it is like timing and the market being ready for it. So just know that there's a whole part that even if you plan the absolute shit out of this that you can't control.
Prove your business and to be able to grow from, which brings us into phase 2. So phase 2 is what we call the no friction sales funnel. And this brings us to month 2 and 3, where we focus on this exact concept. And you might be thinking to yourself, sales funnel? Sounds intimidating. I understand.
If you think sales funnel is intimidating, you just watch the first 7 minutes of my sales funnel training. I explain sales funnels and how they work in 7 minutes. It's not that hard. These people make it sound like it's freaking advanced calculus. It is not.
Understand. But here's the thing. It's called a no friction sales funnel for a reason. We're not talking about paid ads or complicated funnels or tech stacks or buying.
The thing that I always want to ask these people is, okay, if you want to get in front of brand new people who don't know you, how are you doing it without paying for it? I mean, you can create content and it might be seen by new people, but in terms of if you're like, oh, I want to reach 30 something year old mothers in the Midwest, the easiest way to do that is through paid ads. It seems like a too good to be true thing to be able to reach your ideal audience without paying to reach them, is I guess what I'm saying.
Buying expensive tools. That is not necessary right now. And it's actually kind of a silly move because you just don't need.
It's not necessary right now, but it will be necessary later. Because you're still kind of, even if you have your audience, you're still figuring out if it's actually probably the right audience. So maybe that's why you're holding off. So her saying it's kind of silly to do it for now is a caveat she just gave.
So need it in order to grow and to scale in this stage. So we're not doing any of that high pressure, manipulative sales stuff. We're doing something very simple. So the no friction sales funnel is all about building genuine connections with real human beings. I know. It's really a simple concept. So how
I'm so curious how she's going to tell us to do this.
simple is it? All you need to do is create valuable content that shows your expertise and then invite people to simply get onto a consultation call with you, a free consultation call with you. That's it. No.
That is how I run my entire business.
Fancy automation, no expensive tools, no complex email sequences for creating content.
But creating content takes a lot of time. So her saying that like, oh, this isn't going to take a lot of time. Anybody who's ever made content knows that creating content takes time and getting good at creating content takes more time. So yeah, you're not paying any money, but this is going to be time consuming, just to warn you.
For this, to drive people into this no friction sales funnel, I use something called the expert framework. So I'm going to break it down for you. So E is for.
Ooh, an acrostic marketing poem.
Probably not a shocker, but education. And that means sharing valuable and relevant insights with your most ideal audience, which will turn into your most ideal clients.
And I will say, like, I know I've had some people say that her free content out there is good and has been helpful. And me telling you not to spend thousands of dollars on a system with a guru is not me telling you to like not watch free content and learn what you can from it. And I'm not saying that she doesn't know anything. I just have a fundamental issue with charging people thousands of dollars for pretty general advice. So if you want to consume that general advice in a free format, I think that that's totally cool. And I think, like I said, I've had people say that her free stuff is good. I've been watching more of her guru stuff, I guess, but that's not to say I haven't consumed all of her content. So I can't speak to all of it. But yeah, like putting out educational content allows people to not only learn about your subject matter, but have you be the person that pops up in their feed when they do.
And the X is for, we got a little creative here, but experience.
Sure.
And what this means is salt and peppering in the lessons from your own journey to prove
Look at my salt and pepper, guys. Like I got lots of experience here.
that you actually know what you're talking about and you've lived this or you've helped other people achieve the outcome that your ideal audience would want to achieve. And then P is for problem solving. So the reason that this is so important is because this is ultimately, if we can solve problems for people, we create a sense of trust and we show them that we can actually help them. That's the first step to them believing that it's a possibility to achieve the transformation. So
one of the first things that I do when I work with people is I listen to them at the consultation call. And if there is a problem that they bring up that's really bothering them, that's pretty solvable, I try to say, hey, let's solve that first. And it's not to say that that's the ultimate issue or that it's the most important thing. But sometimes if it's been kind of kneeling at them and then you can fix it, it takes a bit of the weight off and it shows that you can do something that's very practical. I agree with all this so far, by the way.
Problem solving means offering actionable tips and steps for their most painful challenges that they're experiencing right now. And then E is for engagement. This might not be what you're thinking it is, though. So I want to kind of dive into this one a little bit. This means connecting with your ideal client emotionally by discussing their struggles and pain points. So
yeah. And God, I just really have a hard time like putting people in an emotional state and feeling good about that. I just can't bring myself to do it. I'll be honest with you. And maybe that's what has me stuck at the level that I'm at and not having an 8-figure business.
It's not all about getting virality or likes or subscribers or any of those things. It's about making content and creating messages that actually touch the person at the pain point that they're in right now to show that you get it, you see them, you hear them, and you actually genuinely want to help them. And then the R is so important. I really can't harp on this enough. And it stands for relevance. Now, this might seem simple, but always creating content that speaks to your specific ideal client, not to everybody, and to their very specific pain points is crucial to actually.
And I know she's talked about specific audience and specific pain points. She hasn't talked about how to figure out what those are yet. Just want to point that out. And again, it could be in her guide that we have to like message, comment about below this video. But I just want to point out, I think we all understand that giving people content that is relevant to them is more likely to be content that they consume and want to like engage with. But how do we figure out who these people are and how do we figure out that we've picked the right audience? Because we might pick an audience and it might not be the right audience.
Actually having content or messaging that turns into consistent clients. So you're not speaking into a void and you're not going broad, which what equals broke. And then the final piece, if we miss this piece, we're not going to get anything out of this.
Okay.
So the final piece is taking action. And what does that mean? Giving anyone who sees your message or your content a clear action to take.
This is also called a CTA or a call to action. And most pieces of marketing that you look at will have this built in, whether it's a video that you watch on TikTok, whether it's a web page that you visit. It's shop now, subscribe, comment, download the guide, and I'll send you a link. So every piece of marketing content, what you want to do is if people find it and they like it, you want to be able to say, oh, hey, the next step is to do this thing so that they don't have to guess what the next thing is.
Clear next steps to follow. Yep. So where do you actually share this content and where are you ultimately taking people? You're wanting them to take the action to get onto that consulting call with you, to get onto your email.
Right. And that's why at the end of this video, I'm going to do a little thing and I'm going to say, hey, if you have gurus or questions, you can leave it as a comment on this video, or you can fill out the contact form of my website. And I'm also going to point you to my email newsletter. And I'm going to point you to the fact that you can visit the website and see more content and even book a no obligation consult call. So there's kind of 3 potential actions at the end of this video that you could take. By the way, this right here is how I've run my entire business for the last 17 years.
email list so that you can actually.
And I also, the first year or two in particular, I would speak to any group of people that would have me. The local Lions Club, the local Rotary Club, the local business group that met in the library, the adult ed, just any group of people that would have me. I would basically show up with my little projector, my screen, and I would be ready to present on something. The senior college, I'm trying to think of other groups of people, but like dozens and dozens of groups of people, the Chamber of Commerce. So if you're running a local business, in particular a service-based business, and you want people in the community to kind of know what you're doing, I think working the local speaking circuit might not be a terrible idea, even in this day and age.
To capture an ideal audience and then nurture them into becoming great clients inside your program. So again, where are you sharing all of this content? Well, here's my advice. Pick one platform. That's it. That's all. So
I think you should pick 2 to 3. So I disagree with this a little bit, in particular this day and age, because social media is changing really fast right now. And you see my content and you probably think like, oh, you probably do pretty well on Facebook. But what if I told you that my best platform is TikTok? I would have never guessed that either, right? I make long form content. I'm a middle-aged woman. I would not have thought TikTok was my place, but it is. So I think it's important, if you're going to make content, you might as well cross-post it a few places and make sure that if you think your audience is on YouTube, they probably are, but if you think that they're only on YouTube, but you start cross-posting stuff, like let's say you say, you know what, I'm going to pick a second platform and that's going to be Instagram. You might find that your videos start doing really well on Instagram, or like you're starting to get direct messages on Instagram from potential clients. And you think, I didn't think my audience was here. So I do think it's important to try a couple of different platforms at the same time, because not only does it decrease the risk of the investment of you creating this content, but also because you just could be wrong about where your audience is. But we'll see what Sunny's reasoning is here for the one platform. I get that like you can't do everything. And I'm not even saying to do everything. I'm saying 2-3 platforms. Spread the risk.
So just one, whether that is LinkedIn or Instagram or email, etc. And you want to do 2 things. So one platform, do 2 things. Connect directly and show up there consistently with value. Quality is much more important than quantity. So this creates a natural progression of generating leads without burning yourself out. How does that happen?
I think sometimes people are unclear, like what is quality? So is this video where I am recording in my co-working space and the background is kind of meh? Is this a low quality video? I don't have any studio lights here. Is this a low quality video? I'm reacting to content instead of doing something with a higher production value. Is this low quality content? Sometimes people will say terms and it's kind of subjective. And the reason I want them to define it is so that I understand what their, I guess, expectation is with quality is better than quantity. What does that look like to you? What is a minimum amount of polish this content should have?
Happen where you kind of create this system where you're ultimately attracting a cold audience, people who don't know you yet. Then they turn into a warm audience by being warmed up through your content, being sent messages, being on your email list. And then you can actually create this expert content, which we call magnetic messaging, because it magnetizes your most ideal.
And that's the thing. If you picked email as your one channel, how are you going to get people on your email list? You got to post content somewhere. So what? You're going to post content maybe to TikTok or maybe to YouTube, and have that feed into your email list. So already she's like, you need one platform, but maybe one platform is a social media platform and one platform is a messaging platform. So that could either be email or text message. So if you want to think of diversity that way, that's fine with me. But I just into like spreading out risk, especially as these social media companies are getting more and more ridiculous. I think at least one of your platforms should be an own platform. That could be your blog and website and email list. But I think, yeah, you need at least one owned platform. Hey, all, editing Nicole. I feel like I didn't explain the owned platform thing very well. An owned platform is a platform that you have 100% control over. So that could be a blog that you update and have access to. That could be a website. That could be an email or a texting list. When you think about social media or you think about ads or things like that, they are on other platforms and you don't necessarily have full control over how they're displayed, when they're displayed, and all of that. In this day and age where ads and algorithms control what you do and don't see, I think it's really important, especially if you have a business, to have at least one owned platform. Even if you set up just a basic one page website, just somewhere that you can put stuff that you have actual control over people seeing theoretically. So, anyway, let's get back to it.
Ideal people. And that allows you to really start generating these leads without having to put in as much effort because you're building sort of a pipeline of folks that are actually really interested in working with you. And
These videos, I joked at the beginning that I make $5 to $15 per. They're a pipeline. That's what they are. I want to work with like smart people who care about marketing, and somebody who's smart who cares about marketing is going to watch videos like this. So, congratulations, you're in my pipeline.
and you're not sort of screaming, like I said, into the void, just constantly creating content that's not getting you anywhere, which is a really frustrating process and a fast track to burnout. I see so many people burn out trying to be everywhere all at once. You don't want to fall into that trap. It is far better.
I agree, not being everywhere at once, but I think there's something between one platform and everywhere at once. And I think that's one owned platform, which is like your website, your email list, something that you have entire control over, and one social media platform. I think it's that, at least.
Better to do one thing really, really well than 5 things poorly. So
Yeah.
remember, the audience you defined and the transformation statement that you wrote, that is ultimately going to be your lighthouse when creating any kind of content. So
I kind of like the imagery of the lighthouse. I am from Maine, though, so that might be it.
Connect directly and create content consistently on your platform of choice, you will figure out exactly what works and what doesn't. This is why we call this sort of like the test phase. You're going to try different approaches within the expert framework. And the amazing thing is this, in 2 months, you will have created a targeted list of potential clients, and you'll start getting eyeballs on your content, having meaningful conversations, and ultimately connecting with people who.
But what happens if I post content and no one watches it? Like, go look at the first 10 years of this YouTube channel. When I was dancing like nobody was watching, because I was dancing and nobody was watching. So my question is, if you haven't found that audience yet, you haven't figured out that posting snarky marketing videos is how you get clients, how would you evaluate what is going wrong there? How would you evaluate, okay, I need to change my approach, or my clients are not on this platform? Like, how would you make that distinction? I know how I would make it. I'm just curious how you would.
People who want,
and to be clear, I know how I would do it, but I'm also not trying to sell you a $5,000 course.
to work with you in a really
To be fair, I don't know how much it is, but it's multiple thousands of dollars, and maybe we'll look at it after.
effective way that doesn't require you to be everywhere all at once and doing all the things all at once. So does that feel doable? Could you make 5 new direct connections through a message a day by asking simple questions like, hey, what's your biggest struggle right
And I've had the same problem with Alex Harbozy. How are you finding these people to direct message? Are you sending a message to everyone who decides to follow you? So that 5 messages a day assumes you're getting 5 new followers a day. Are you going onto other people's channels and leaving comments and engaging with them there? To me, it's a little unclear that you're going to find these 5 people every single day and you're going to message them. But what if you're posting content and you're just not having 5 people a day interact with it? How do you find these people then?
right now with whatever the topic is that your program's.
Also, this is a super direct question for somebody that you've never talked to. If someone who's like, hi, what's your biggest struggle with your business, Nicole? I'd be like, why are you just jumping right into it like this? This feels like a deeply personal question for you to ask me right away.
Program's going to be on, or post valuable content every other day, even just once every 3 days. All you need is that content that actually shares your experiences. It helps your ideal client tackle challenges, or it shows them the steps to reach their goals. Okay, so that brings us into phase 3. And this is where we enter into months 4 and 5. And this is really important. So phase 3 is all about creating systems to scale. So as we enter into this phase and into months 4 and 5, this is where we're really going to.
Okay, for those listening, we've switched. The whiteboard now says months 4 and 5, phase 3, systems to scale. And it has 4 bullet points on it, which I'm sure she's going to go over right now.
Focus on those systems, but we're not going to do it just for the sake of scaling. We're actually creating them intentionally to give you back your time and mental space, because let's be honest, a truly successful business shouldn't need you to be on 24/7.
You don't need to be on 24/7, but you do need to work in your own business.
You should be running your business. Your business should not be running you. And that's
And part of the expectation, if someone is paying over $1,000 for something, is that they have some kind of interaction with you. Maybe not a one-on-one interaction, but why would I take a very expensive course if I couldn't talk to the instructor or I couldn't even ask a question? Do you know what I mean? Why wouldn't I just join Coursera or join a MOOC? I forget what MOOC stands for. I'll put it on the screen. I have forgotten what MOOC stands for like 3 years. Apparently, it just cannot stay in my brain. But point being is, if I wanted to just like consume information that someone had scaffolded for me into a course, why would I pay thousands of dollars for it unless I was getting that personal interaction or that ability to ask questions?
exactly what good systems do. They serve your life, they don't consume it ultimately. So, by this point in your journey, you have really core pieces in place. You have three things that are actually crucial to this process in place in order to get to the systems aspect. You truly understand your ideal client and their 0 to hero transformation. You've had the conversations, worked with clients, seen what content clicks, and you've got that clarity now. You've also got a curriculum outline that actually gets results. You have a step-by-step proven process that really, really works. And you've got those first happy clients who will prove the method and your program and ultimately delivers them real transformation. So with those three ingredients in place, we then can turn your program, your live program, into an evergreen digital program through what I
Yeah, I think this is a little bit gross. Listen, if you wanted to do sort of a hybrid method of a course, I worked with a client who did this. He was a certified financial planner and he wanted to give basically a course for people who couldn't necessarily afford to work with him on an ongoing basis. So he like made this whole course in this nice system called Money Mentals. I did take it. It was really good. I would have paid for it. And I think he charged I think it was like 300-ish bucks for it at the time. This was like almost 10 years ago, I think, at this point. But anyway, what he did obviously was he had the modules pre-recorded and they would release in a certain order. When you signed up, you would get like access to week 1. And then 7 days later, you get access to the week 2 module and so on and so forth. But there was part of it where there was a forum where you could like ask questions and stuff like that. So you sort of had access to this financial planner, but you weren't kind of paying him to consult on your own individual stuff. And I think he had to be like really clear in it. I think he was about like sort of what he could and couldn't advise you on. But at the very least, you were learning from a financial planner and you had this sort of access to him, even if it wasn't necessarily in real time with him teaching the class, while you're both on Zoom together. So I think if you are going to offer something like this and it is going to be evergreen, you do have to have some kind of interaction, I think, for it to not be gross. Just my opinion. I'm allowed to have that. Anyway, let's get back to it. I keep pointing out that I'm allowed to have an opinion for the Sunny people because I've run a marketing company for 17 years. I'm not an idiot.
what I call minimum viable automation. So instead of trying to automate everything, just focus on the pieces that give you back the most time.
Agree.
So what are those pieces? Number one is pre-recorded training modules. So you're going to record the content in your curriculum so that you can set it and people can watch it on their own pace without you needing to be involved. Then an automated application process, which usually consists of an application that can be built into a calendar scheduling platform.
I think the application process is supposed to be that you don't accept everyone kind of thing. I think that's what it is. I mean, it could just be a registration so for example, with the Money Mentals class, it was a WordPress site. And so people would pay for it. And in going through the payment form, it would automatically create them a WordPress registration and they would get an automated email to their email welcoming them to the course. And then like, okay, here's here's how you access it, that kind of thing. So I think what she means by automated process is the registration, but the way that she says application, it makes it sound like there's a weeding out of people potentially.
Platform like Calendly. So people can just book onto your calendar whenever they see fit. So you can have that free consultation with them to see.
Oh, okay. Automatic process to book the free consultation. Okay. I totally agree with this. And it's stupid. My Calendly link is everywhere right now. So I kind of can't get rid of it. But I think Google Calendar has created like a way to do appointments now that is very similar to Calendly. So if you're a Google Workspace user, you might just want to use that. But like I said, my Calendly link is everywhere. So the idea of trying to figure out how to get rid of it in all of my YouTube descriptions and everything makes me want to die. So I guess I'll just keep paying, whatever a month for it.
To see if they're actually a fit to be a part of your program and enroll them into it. And then simple email sequences for common questions that are set up and just run without you needing to send them or anything like that. It's all done.
So I agree with her in that I think most people jump to automation a little bit too quickly. I've had clients who are like, well, what if like 150 people order my thing at the same time? And what I always tell them, and I'll tell you now, is that when you have that problem, you'll have the money to solve the problem. And usually when I tell them this, they're like, oh yeah, that kind of makes sense. So what you can do though, if you're like not ready to like automate email, is you can draft email templates. So like I know Google Workspace has a way that you can save, your different templates in. So for example, with the co-working space, we have a confirmation conference room, confirmation floating or flex desk, confirmation monthly dedicated desk, general inquiry. So we have like certain kinds of things and we have emails drafted for them. And then what I can do is like, let's say that we get a new member, I can get the new flex member email and whatever, I can add their first name. And then maybe they ask me about, hey, can I come in at 6 a.m. on Monday? And maybe I don't care that they come in at 6 a.m. on Monday. So I can just literally add that one line to that email and then hit send and it's done. So you can make these template emails and save them in your email system. Or if you want, you can just save them in like a separate, Word or Google Doc or something like that and just copy and paste them in. You're probably not going to be at the stage where like you need to figure out all the automations right away. So don't worry about that just yet. Just concentrate on what do I want to say to this person? What do they need to know? Just kind of get that down and then you can continue reusing those templates over and over again.
All done in the background, and then simple systems for client onboarding and support. So that process can all be automated. So when you record your program, you want to make sure that you're breaking it down.
I don't know about what she means about onboarding. I think she just means the welcome email when they register. I'm a little bit confused as to what she means by here, but to me, like the things you can automate, obviously, yeah, you want to record the course and like have it, do the best version of that recording that you can. You want to have a way that people can register online without having to talk to you, take the payment, all that. You do want to send some kind of welcome email or some kind of thing so that they know where things are, what the expectations are. Maybe they have the link to log in and the link for how they get help and stuff like that all in one place. I'm not sure what else you would want to automate. I feel like part of what they're paying for it, besides your expertise and to learn from you, is having some kind of interaction. But yeah, I'm not sure how like email and onboarding, I guess, are entirely separate, but
It down into digestible steps so that your clients can really experience clear outcomes and wins after each lesson. I found this is incredibly important in getting real results and momentum. It helps them really stick with it and builds that sort of snowball effect. So you want to share stories, share examples, make it personal, and record it as if you're talking to just one person. It creates that really intimate one-on-one feeling, even in an evergreen format. You want to also add exercises and action items so your audience isn't just passive watching, they're actually implementing what they
yeah, I think it's really important to have kind of supplemental materials for learning. If somebody just wanted to watch a series of videos in a certain sequence, they could just find a good YouTube playlist. So part of what makes your thing stand apart as a course is that you're offering supplemental materials. And this doesn't have to just be worksheets and other kind of PDFs that people can like print off or fill out, or even if they're Word documents that they can just work with. This could also be lists of links. This could be some supporting videos. Maybe I'm in the middle of teaching something and there's this kind of side thing that would be useful to know, but I don't want to get into it in the main video. Maybe I would link to a supplemental video that gets specifically into how to do that for people who don't know. Maybe you can do like interactive stuff like quizzes or other kinds of things where people can give feedback. I think it's really important that you give people not just the knowledge, but a way to practice it. That's part of like what's going to cement the learning for the person who's taking the course.
They learn. And here's the best part. You don't need fancy equipment. I started with just an iPhone and basic editing software. So all you need is clear audio and good lighting. You want to grab a $20 lavalier mic and record near a window, and that covers it. And truly, screencasting is the best way to build a curriculum. We actually use Google Docs and ScreenFlow, and that's it. And you want to just
I use loom.com as my screen recording software, and it works really well for me. It also has a Google Chrome extension. So yeah, but use like whatever piece of software that you want.
keep it that simple because it allows you to make tweaks as maybe updates happen in a much more effective way rather than having to re-record the entire thing. So again, that serves the ultimate purpose of serving your clients in the best way possible and giving them what they need in the most efficient way possible. And now we're moving on to phase 4. All right, so in phase 4, it's all about revving the referral.
All right, so the whiteboard has changed again, in case people want to take a quick look at that.
Engine. So what does that mean? Well, in month 6, this is honestly my favorite part because now the flywheel really starts to work for you. You're creating sustainable, predictable growth. Everything becomes effortless as these pieces fall into place. So
A quick aside, just a little visual of what effortless looks like, everyone. With her method, she shouldn't have to be running 42 different sets of Facebook ads right now. So she's got some running now that started in April, some that started in March, some that started in February. It looks like she took December off, but these are all active ads, some of which she started like 6 months ago that are still running. So other platforms, by the way, don't make it as easy to like look up this stuff. But yeah, I just want to point out that these people act like you're never going to have to spend money on ads when they're spending money on ads. So if they have to do it and you're a lot smaller as a creator or as a company than they are, you're probably going to have to do it as well if you want to sustain the growth. It's not always going to be effortless. And it does not mean that it's not going to cost you some money to continue the effort. But let's get back to how all these referrals are going to get us all our money.
those happy clients from earlier, they become your greatest assets through what we call revving the referral engine. Ultimately, this means you're turning your best client results and your best case studies into this steady stream of really organic marketing to get more folks to trust and believe in the process and become a part of the program. So the 4 key pieces that really make this system work are ultimately having a case study collection system. So you're constantly collecting the proof that the program works.
And again, if you're working with businesses, they might be a little reticent to share this. I'm just going to warn you of that. That's what I've run into anyway.
A referral incentives process so that if people are referring new clients to the program and organically marketing it, ultimately they would get a commission on that. And that encourages them to, yes, tell people about it, but also you can get something in return for that, which is really great. And then client success celebration rituals. So in our program, we've created this culture of #winning, and we see wins shared every single day. And what that does is it just motivates the rest.
And she has thousands of students though. So what happens when you have like 20 students, right? Like how many different wins are they going to be really to be able to share? Until you have a critical mass of people, it's going to be difficult to have this be something that really revs the engine, so to
Rest
speak.
of the clients, it shows them this is doable. And I'm in a community of people doing the same thing. And it holds people accountable and accelerates their results. And then finally, community building initiatives. So what I mean by that is really making sure that you're taking the time to celebrate the folks inside of your community, connect the folks inside of your community. They're connecting organically on their own to root for each other.
So I think what she didn't mention is, so you have the online kind of class that people have signed up for, series of videos probably, and some exercises and some other like sort of supportive learning material. But there's also theoretically an online community that you're supporting, in addition to obviously the social media content that you're or the other marketing collateral that you're creating. So yeah, this actually would take a fair bit of time, just FYI.
To create accountability groups, etc. That builds a really, really beautiful community space that feels safe and where people feel seen and able and equipped to do their best work to ultimately get the results of the program. And when they get the results of the program, what are they going to do? They're probably going to tell even more people about it, which is where this
Or are they going to keep it to themselves because they're doing really well and it doesn't incentivize them in any way to get more people doing as well as they are, especially people who are in their industry?
Whole flywheel really starts to work for you. So when these pieces start to work together, something really magical happens. Your business starts growing organically, like I said, through word of mouth. It's simple, but it's the most effective
And through running multiple sets of ads at a given time on at least one social platform.
way to market. You don't have to scream as much or fight for space or attention on social media, because if it works and people will talk about it. So this isn't about gathering typical testimonials that nobody believes anymore. It's about documenting real transformations. And this is using things like milestone check-ins throughout their journey, before and after metrics to show the results of your program, documentation of specific wins, or video testimonials capturing these peak moments and celebrations of their success and results all throughout the journey. It's not just about the end, but what are the wins along the way, making sure that you're capturing those. So one of our clients came up with something brilliant. She calls them transformation tracking sessions. So every 30 days, she meets with her clients specifically to document their progress. And not only does this give her amazing content to share, but it helps her clients actually see how far they've come. You got to celebrate your wins, and that builds more momentum. So for this referral process, you want to keep it super simple. And when I talk about incentives, think maybe a certain percentage on the amount of the program that becomes a kickback commission to them. That can be anywhere, depending on the price of your program, from 10 to 50%. So remember, you're spending
10 to 50%. That kind of, okay. I appreciate that she's preparing people for a pretty large percentage of the transaction. Nobody's going to do it for 10%. Like if you're selling like a $200 course or something and you're going to give a 10% kickback, nobody's going to go out of their way to be able to maybe make $20 someday. Do you know what I mean? But while she was talking, I also looked at her Google ad spend. So this is a Google Transparency Center. So she's running 32 ads on Google right now. And something that you probably noticed if you're a YouTube person is that, the YouTube ads are actually relatively cheap, especially if you do the skippable in-stream ones. I should say they're relatively cheap. I'm not saying that like ads don't cost money, because they do. But what's interesting is, so I looked her up and she's a verified account, but it also had another option. So let me try that. Sunny Len. So there's also this sunnylenarduzzi.com. And it looks like that's a separate ad account that's running less ads. So one is a verified advertiser and this one doesn't seem to be. So I think that that's interesting. Maybe she's having like separate agencies run these two sets of ad accounts. They're battling it out to who gets to run her Google ads going forward. But yeah, so this is the Google Ads Transparency Center. The other thing we looked at was the Facebook Ads Library. So if you ever want to see kind of what these people are running, those are two ways to look them up. All right, let's finish this sucker up.
0 on advertising. So this is really an incredible organic marketing strategy.
0 on advertising. 0. Okay.
Strategy. And plus these referral clients.
Does this not work anymore? Is that why you have to run ads? Or are you just luring people into the sense that they're not going to have to spend money on it? I love how we literally just looked at her spending minimum couple grand a month in ads. She's like, no ad spend. Okay.
Clients really are your best clients. They trust you from day one because they trust the person who referred them. And that means they're going to get better results and there's going to be less friction in the process for them. So let's talk about celebrating client success. This is about creating moments where your clients feel seen. So this might mean that you feature wins in your email list or on your social media platforms to share their success, which feels like a big kudos to them.
And you might want to just check that they feel comfortable sharing that information, because something that they share in an internal Facebook group with their peers is maybe not something they want blasted everywhere and associated with them.
Exciting. It's something people work towards. It could be special recognition. It could be celebration on your weekly support calls. So every support call that we have inside our program, we start them with wins. And it's such an amazing way to set the—
Okay, you get a weekly support call with her as part of it. Okay. It's still kind of expensive, in my opinion, for a weekly support call. But again, I will check the price. I could be wrong.
Tone for the call. Maybe it's live client case studies, whatever it is. It's important to make sure you're celebrating the progress of your clients because it helps them believe that this is doable and it helps them stick with the process. And ultimately, that's a win-win-win for everybody. And finally, that brings us to the community building. So this takes everything to the next level. When your clients connect with each other, share their wins, and support each other, the energy is incredible. So the more they feel part of this special community, the more they want to tell others about it. And for managing all of this, you don't need anything fancy. You just want to start with the basic tools. So for your actual program itself, you have Thinkific or Kajabi or Teachable. For your course, the platform really doesn't matter nearly as much as actually having great content curriculum inside of your program. Then
she gets credit for saying the actual software doesn't matter, but we're going to check for affiliate links in the description after this.
you have, Facebook or Circle or other platforms for hosting your community, whatever platform feels best for you. Then you have Calendly for scheduling, and then you can use Loom for quick video feedback that feels very personalized, or simple Google Forms or Sheets for tracking metrics and success.
When people go rapid fire through a bunch of different tech things, I feel like a graphic would have been helpful here. Just going to say that.
Of your clients to know when you can celebrate their wins. But remember, the tools matter so much less than the intention behind them. So start simple and you can upgrade as you grow.
Yep,
Even
I agree.
just a Zoom account, Google Docs, and a Facebook group can work wonders at first. And when all of these pieces work together, you create this beautiful snowball effect. So your community of happy clients become your biggest advocates, bringing in more aligned clients who then also become advocates themselves once they get the results from the program, which is what this is all about. So it's really not about pushing or forcing growth. And honestly, if you have to market so hard to get people to believe in your program, I would go back to the basics and make sure the program actually works.
I somewhat agree with that. I also think that sometimes if you think there's a certain audience for something and you keep reaching them and they're just not engaging, maybe it's just the wrong audience. I would say that that might be the problem too.
Because if you have to market that hard, maybe there's an issue with the program itself. It's about creating the conditions for natural expansion and letting a community of like-minded people come together. And the rest truly, truly, truly with time takes care of itself. So, as I wrap up this video, I want to share something really personal. So that day in the hospital, it
Okay, and we're going back to the emotional appeal.
wasn't just a wake-up call about my business. It was really a wake-up call about how I'd lost sight of what actually matters: real human connection. And I'd completely bought into the myth that success meant hustle, push harder, focus on metrics and profits above everything else. That somehow the more stressed and overwhelmed I was, the more successful I was.
But at the beginning, you said like 72% of successful business owners feel burnt out. So, like, is burnout a natural consequence of being successful? Or are you saying that, like, we could be successful without burning out and we're just choosing to do so because, we've all gotten into the sort of 2010 girl boss culture?
Just not true, and it's a losing battle. So what I've discovered, both through building my own business and also helping thousands of others build theirs, is that real sustainable success happens when we stop asking, how can I make more money? And start asking, how can I truly help more people?
Then why is this video called a 6-month plan to build a $1 million business without burning out? If the actual question is, how many people can I help? Money is important, and money does solve a lot of problems for people. And so I think it's a little disingenuous to pretend that it isn't important, but also you're leading with it too. So there's that.
And when we build businesses around connection and community, growth happens naturally. And I used to think building a business meant following some strict formula, but now I realize it's really about creating spaces where people feel totally seen, heard, and supported, where transformation happens not because you're pushing hard, but because you actually care about the people that you serve.
She is really genuine. She has great delivery. And I'm not saying that she isn't a nice person. And she's also Canadian. So, like, by default, she's probably nicer than the average American. But her tactics are still guru-y, okay? You can be a nice person who knows what they're talking about and also be trying to sell them overpriced stuff. We'll look at our prices in a second, but
it's a pretty simple concept. So here's what's really beautiful about that. When you build a business this way, you don't just make a bigger impact. That's an amazing aspect of it, but you end up doing better financially than if you'd focused on profit alone. I've seen it happen over and over with our clients. The ones who build the strongest communities always end up with the most sustainable, profitable businesses. Is it easy? No. Building anything meaningful takes dedication and persistence, but it's so much more possible and enjoyable when you're building from a place of real connection instead of constant hustle. So, despite
maybe you're hustling because it's the beginning of your business and you need to make money and you're kind of stressed out because you've got bills to pay. I wish that we could all approach every financial thing in our lives and our careers with this much ease. But if you're financially stressed, you might not be able to feel like this. Do you know what I mean?
despite the title of this video, we're not just here to
Despite
build
the title of this video. Why is the title of this video something you have to overcome? You have complete control of the title of this video, Sunny. Why did you call it this?
$1
You
million
called it this because you knew people were gonna click on it. I don't know why I picked up the spoon. I think I was gonna eat yogurt while she finished, but I'll just wait till she's done.
business in 6 months. We're here to build something that really matters, something that serves both you and your community, something that lets you make an impact while still having time for morning walks, family dinners, or whatever it is that fills your cup and is individual to you. So at the end of the day, success isn't measured in dollars. It's measured in lives changed, in communities built, in the ripple effect you create while
If it's measured in that, then I'm pretty fucking successful. Let me just say that.
living a life that you actually enjoy. If this resonates with you, and if you're ready to build a business that's both profitable and centered on true connection, your best first step is to comment, give me the guide below, or click the link in the description to get total clarity on how you can turn
Okay, she did link in the description, so we didn't have to leave a comment.
your skill set or expertise into a real, sustainable, and scalable business, and we'll send you the free guide. So thank you so much for watching. And remember, you don't have to choose between impact and well-being, between profit and purpose. When you build from a place of actual connection, you can have it all. It won't happen overnight, but nothing worth doing does. So be sure to watch this next video on how I built an online program that generates $5 million a year. And I'll see you in the next video.
Income claim. Income claim. All right. So she only mentioned the thing 5 times. She just mentioned it 3 times in the first 11 minutes. So it felt like a lot, but then she didn't mention it in the second half of the video very much. We looked at effortless and getting referrals as the main way of getting new clients. And we see that she's running at least a couple of grand worth of ads a month. The final thing that I want to look up now that this video is done is how much her stuff costs. I looked around and then I asked ChatGPT to find Sunny's prices for her own courses on her own website. And this is what it told me. Apparently, there's no pricing on her website, but it says that the Boss Course Blueprint Masterclass was listed at $497, but it looks like it's available for $49.95 on the course DL. So for YouTube for Bosses, it was a 4-hour crash course. It was originally discounted from its original price of $597 down to $68 on this resale website. And Authority Accelerators has no pricing on it. We have somebody who's paid $5,000 for this course, and it looks like this was posted like a year and a month or so ago. So I'm guessing maybe that the price is different now. I also said that we'd look at the description of her video and see if she had affiliate stuff in there for Kajabi and the other stuff that she verbally mentioned as her tech stack. So let's go look at that. And listen, I have no problem with people recommending software. I just want them to tell me that they're getting a kickback for it. So we have free training, 4 steps to turn your skill into a 6-figure business without paid ads. But she's using paid ads, but okay. And I don't see any links to any Kajabi or anything like that. It just looks like she's trying to bring people into this Authority Accelerator class, or I guess mastermind, or whatever she wants to call it, which makes sense because it's definitely the most expensive item that she has. So Sunny Lenarduzzi seems like she's a nice person, seems like also she's a very knowledgeable person about marketing. Does that mean I think you should pay over $5,000 to take a very general course about how to make a course and then market it online? I personally think it's overpriced. And if you think I'm mean for saying that, then you can think I'm mean for saying that. So that's all I've got for today. If you like this content, you can watch more. I have literally covered over 100 gurus. If you have something like a question or a topic you want me to cover or a certain guru you want me to cover, you can leave it as a comment on this video. Or if you're more shy, you can use the contact form of my website, technicalsupport.com/contact. If you want to lightly keep in touch, a good way to do that is through the newsletter, technicalsupport.com/newsletter. I typically send it about once a month. You're not going to get it more than that, but you might get it less than that. And yeah, thanks so much for watching. And remember, these marketing gurus, they'll just keep on coming. But the good news is you've got a friend that's me in the marketing business who's not afraid to call them on bullshit, but also admit when they're right about stuff, because I like to be fair and balanced. Not like Fox News, actually fair and balanced. And if you really like this content, feel free to subscribe to the YouTube channel to support it and see more of it. So thanks so much for watching. Feel free to like the video, subscribe if you want to see more of this content or otherwise support the channel. And I hope to see you in the next video. Take care.